Welcome back to We Love the State. This is the state-sanctioned podcast. I am your particularly greasy-faced host, Andy Coons. This is
just means he's gonna slide into your DMs a little easier.
I wash my face with fried chicken, is what I'm trying to say.
As every American should.
And yes, your DMs are all lubed up.
I smell chicken. Oh no, that's Andy.
Oh.
Ew.
Anyway, over here to my, what is that? My right, my left, who the fuck knows? Several miles away is my not so greasy faced co-host, Ben DeJong. How you doing, Ben?
Doing good. It's gonna be, we haven't done this remote in a while. It's kind of weird. But on the flip side, I think we've done so many in-person episodes on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't seem so like disjointed.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times, virtual conversations are. So
yeah.
Winning.
I think it's the improved camera.
It just looks so much better.
Yeah. Before I was talking to shitty skin tone Ben.
Yeah, blown out Ben. Ooh, that sounds like an ugly porno name.
Blown out
All
Ben.
right, we're gonna have to cut that part.
That needs to be.
I don't want to walk into work tomorrow and be like, "Hey, it's
that
blown out Ben."
That needs to be a shirt. Somebody needs to design like a worn out VHS tape cover
on the front, and then on the back it says blown out Ben.
Oh my god, dude. All right, everybody get a hold of a picture of Ben's face so you can put him on the cover. Blown out Ben.
I'm all about marketing ideas. That might cross the line.
Dude, you're the new Deep Throat.
Wait, was it Deep Throat? Just call me Glory Hole. Oh,
blown out Ben and
do a banger tonight.
All right, so your porno name is Blown Out Ben. I'm trying to think of one for me. As soon as you said Glory Hole, I was like, God damn, that's a really good one. But I don't think I can take that one. I got to come up with.
All right, you can take it.
All right, here it is. This is ridiculous.
All
right, so you're blown out. You're blown out, Ben.
I'm the tongue twister. Oh, I don't even want that one either. Damn it!
You keep coming up with all these really good names. I am prolapsed anus Andy.
Oh. I never want to hear you say that again. Ever.
Oh my god.
Working in the medical field, that's an easy visual for me.
We are 3 minutes into this podcast.
And everybody is like vomiting out their car window as they're driving to work.
Everybody pull into work with all your windows down and your car stereo all the way up, listening to this so you can pull in hearing Blown Out Ben and prolapsed anus Andy.
And you had plans to go to the strip club this weekend. Think again. You're welcome, sensations.
Speaking of blown out prolapsed anuses, we're talking about gold today.
Yes, we are. I'm trying to see how we can segue.
I don't think there is a good one.
Yeah, no, there's no. I think that just because we said segue means that there's going to be a segue. So yes, we are talking real money today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I'm trying to remember where I first came across it, actually. I can't exactly remember. But it's a great episode. We actually have somebody from the company Goldbacks on the podcast, which is awesome that he took the time out to be able to do that. I think he had quite a bit going on. So
do you have any Goldbacks on you right now?
Not the second, but I know that Ben pulled some out during the episode. So
you guys have to see these things. They're gorgeous,
absolutely beautiful,
real gold.
Yep, real gold and easily transaction. It's roughly the same size as our worthless paper money. So It was a great episode. There was probably I could have done easily another hour with him.
Yeah.
So, there is definitely potential to do, more of these kind of discussions with him. Or we also had a guest, Dakota, who's also a libertarian from Michigan, who's also a big proponent. I met here Dakota at the last libertarian convention. I just vaguely remember out of the corner of my eyes seeing something shiny flashing, and I quickly whipped around, and he was showing somebody some Goldbacks that he had brought to the convention. I'm like,
So
I gotta talk to this guy.
All right, so I know how this conversation goes. So you walk up to him, you go, "Hi, I'm Blown Out Ben."
Yeah. Give me your gold.
Right. Yeah, we're talking about Goldbacks today. It's a very interesting episode, and I do have a bit of a disclaimer, kind of a funny story. So right before you get to my house, my wife walks out to the garage. She hands me this chocolate. She's like, "Here you go." And I was like, "Thanks. Is it like a special chocolate?" And she's like, "Yeah." And so I was like, "How much is in there?" She's like, "It's just, 10 milligrams." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I pop it in my mouth. Like edibles before have like never been like heavy for me, and especially not a 10 milligram edible. It's like nothing. Right. Except for this one, because I was high the entire time we were recording.
Dude, I'm impressed.
I must, like, I'm maybe I should be impressed too, because the whole time I was like in my head I was like, I can barely understand what these guys are talking about.
Oh, so how much actually was it?
I don't know. I thought it was 10, but I don't know how much was actually in it. But the first time I ever tried an edible, it was right after I quit driving at my old job and got promoted. So I was working in the office, and so I didn't have to deal with DOT regulations or anything like that. So I wasn't going to get randomly drug tested. So I was like, well, I'm free to try marijuana now. And so my sister-in-law was here, and she goes, "Have you ever had an edible?" And I was like, "No." She's like, "Okay, well, I think I've got one." I was like, "Okay, cool." So she pulls out this cookie.
Now, it's just the first time you've like ingested marijuana at all, or just done an edible, or
this is the first time I've ever done an edible. But before then, it had been like 7 years since I had even touched weed,
Okay.
And so she hands me this cookie. She's like, "All right, now the first rule of edibles is you go a bite at a time." I was like, "Okay." She's like, "So just take a little bite, wait like 45 minutes, and tell me how you feel." I was like, "Okay." So I took a bite, waited 45 minutes. She's like, "How do you feel?" I was like, "I don't feel anything." She's like, "Okay, well, take another little bite." And I was like, "Okay." So I took another little bite, waited like a half hour. She's like, "How you feeling?" I was like, "I don't feel anything." So she calls her boyfriend, and she's like, "Hey, how much was in that cookie you gave me?" And he goes, I think like 15 milligrams. She goes, "Oh." She sticks her head out of the kitchen. She goes, "Andy." And I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "Eat the whole thing." And I was like, "Okay." So I shoved this fucking cookie in my mouth. And then she pops back into the kitchen, and he goes, "Wait, was that the white chocolate macadamia nut cookie?" And she's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, that's 150 milligrams. And so she sticks her head back out of the kitchen. She goes, "Andy." I was like, "What?" She's like, "Did you eat the whole thing?" I'm wiping cookie crumbs off my beard. And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh no." And I was like, "What?" She's like, "You took too much." And I was like, "What?" And as soon as she said that, everything just went, everything went into slow motion. I was like, "What the hell's going on?" And so like, I felt very good. I was like, "This is a good time. This is great." I feel really good.
But it's still building.
That was the first bite.
First bite.
Kicking in. The first little bite. All right. That first bite that I took was probably 15 milligrams. And then I just ingested 10 times that much. And so later, when the entire ass cookie hit, dude, I touched the face of God.
It's like comatose.
Basically, I mean, I was on the couch, like I couldn't distinguish between laughing and crying. At one point, I made my way outside and was sitting in a lawn chair, and I'm gonna sound like total white trash because of this, but like I'm sitting in this lawn chair. We've got this little bonfire going, and my sister-in-law's 5-year-old stepdaughter is there also. All right. And she walks up to me, and she's this beautiful little girl with these eyes like this big. She's standing right in front of me. She puts her little hands on my knees. She goes, "Hi." And I was like, "Well, hey, honey, how are you?" She goes, "You're going to have nightmares." And I was like, "What?" She goes, "You're going to have nightmares. You're going to have nightmares. You're going to have nightmares." And starts like dancing around like a fucking imp, like something out of Stephen King. And I was like, "Get this fucking woman away from me!" Like,
I'm having nightmares right
scared
now.
the shit out of me. And
did her mom tell her to go and tell you that?
No, she just has this weird sociopathic sixth sense where she's like, "That dude's high. I'm gonna go fuck with him." You know?
Wow.
Yeah, it scared the shit out of me.
Oh yeah. When a 5-year-old says anything like that, you're like,
Yeah.
all right, either I'm being pranked or I'm gonna die.
I was like, prolapsed anus Andy is about to get got.
Won't be the only thing prolapsed.
All right.
All right, marijuana aside, and back to gold.
We're talking about real money, real
money.
currency.
So, another thing that, I mean, we delved in a little bit was, you know, looking at like digital currency and some of the pros and cons of having a physical currency versus a digital currency. And again, I think we only really scratched the surface of that conversation. So I'd love to have, you know, a continued, not debate, because I think there's a place for both.
We should host a Bitcoin versus precious
debate.
metals. Yeah. Dude, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely know people in both camps.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you know, I like the idea of, and again, we kind of touched on this in the episode about having a physical gold-backed currency that also was somehow had a digital footprint, so it made it easier to transact outside of, you know, physical transactions.
Right.
So there's a lot of potential for goldbacks, I think, and especially having it in the conversation of what is real money, especially in, you know, in times like this. I mean, I think the news just came out today that inflation came back lower than expected. I think they were expecting 7.9. It came back at like 7.3, and like the stock market just exploded. Like everything went sky high. But I don't think we've seen the last of inflation. I mean, we're talking,
No,
you
not
know,
at
there
all.
is even just the fuel shortages that's around the corner on the diesel fuel front. I mean, that alone will affect almost every price we pay in the United States, because whether it's been shipped, whether it's been powered, whether it's been, you know, no matter what, like diesel fuel kind of runs the country when it comes to commerce.
Yeah.
So if that
It's almost
skyrockets,
$6 a gallon. I mean, it's getting crazy.
right, that's going to drastically affect prices moving forward. So I think the celebration for, you know, quote unquote beating inflation is way too early. I don't think we're going to be able to celebrate that anytime soon. So these type of conversations about currency, I think, will become, I mean, I think they're important now, but they are going to only continue to become more important as we delve into the unknown of, you know, I mean, between the housing market, you know, there is going to be a collapse around the corner. It's just a matter of, you know, what's going to hit first.
Mhm.
And that's going to affect prices.
Mhm. Well, let's go ahead and get into this. This is let's do some plugs real quick.
Oh yeah.
All right. So, you can join our Facebook page. Let's get as many people there as we possibly can.
And we've already got some pretty famous followers. Libertarian Party of Michigan, I hear you and I see you, and they just started following the We Love the State Facebook page. So
let's talk about the other,
whoever that is.
Let's talk about the other one, the other big one. The National Libertarian Party follows We Love the State on Facebook. So, if you want to be as cool as the National Libertarian Party, you're going to have to join our Facebook group.
You know where the party's at.
You know where the party's at, literally.
Literally.
So yeah, join our Facebook group. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can find me at Andy_Coons. Twitter has been a blast recently because there's no more rules. It's Wild West out there.
I just might have to sign up.
You have to, man. Like,
yeah, I mean,
you and I could have a lot of fun.
I need to support free speech, damn it.
So yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, hopefully soon you can follow Ben on Twitter also. If you want to follow me on TikTok, you can find me at Andy Coons. That is Koons, just in case you didn't know. And then our locals. Let's shout out our locals real quick. Find Wheel of the State on locals.com. We're going to start uploading regularly or semi-regularly for like patrons only, subscribers only, and it's going to be what, like
we're talking $5 a month.
Yeah, $5 a month. It's not going to be all politics. We're going to go in crazy out there different directions, and one of the episodes that we recorded for it was actually like an accident. We just started talking about like mental health, and it branched into this huge conversation, and we were just like, it started after we had finished an episode and we were just bullshitting, and then I had this thing in my head that's like, you should record this, and
this is gonna be gold.
Yeah, hey,
we talked about gold.
Full circle. But yeah, it's a really heavy episode. I think you guys are really gonna like it, and you're gonna find that on locals. So yeah, what plugs you got, Ben?
Definitely follow the We Love the State Instagram. I'm on there quite a bit, so check us out. We Love the State on Instagram, and you can follow me on Instagram. Picture This 1979. That's my main photography Instagram page, where most of the stuff is that I shoot, at least shoot on my iPhone. You can always find me. My DeJong Photography website is DeJongPhotography.net. And then also feel free to look me up on Facebook. Facebook's probably my biggest, where I, whether it's a memes or whether it's just shooting comments out there or having good discussions. Most of the time it's on Facebook. So that's probably the two best places you can find me.
Yeah, perfect. Follow me on Twitter if you want to see me getting a lot of arguments. I've gotten an argument with a 79-year-old man. And then also a rapper I think he's from Georgia. I got in an argument with him today. So yeah, I like to argue. All right, this is our interview with Ben. What's his last name?
Well, Ben and Dakota. So Ben from Goldbacks, and Dakota from the Libertarian, fellow Libertarian in the state of Michigan.
All right, perfect. Yeah, this is it. Enjoy. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. This is We Love the State. We got a very interesting episode. I'm super stoked to hear or to have this conversation. We've got a couple of people here. We've got my good friend Dakota Keeler. How you doing, Dakota?
Good. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. And we also have Ben Schaffer. How are you, Ben?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're all gathered here today.
This sounds like a funeral.
Yeah, I know.
We're all gathered here today.
Dearly beloved,
dearly beloved,
we're talking about Goldbacks, talking about currency.
Yep.
Yeah. Very interesting concept, the Goldback. First time I saw him was actually the first time I met Ben in person.
Yeah. As soon as I'm like, hey, have you heard of Goldbacks? Because I'm like,
he's like, have you heard of Goldbacks? By the way, my name's Ben.
Yeah, I'm an evangelist when it comes to Goldbacks, which is ironic enough because I met Dakota at our last Libertarian convention, and I saw him flashing Goldbacks, and I was like, a brother, yeah. I need to meet this guy. So,
nice.
so we're super excited to have you on the podcast. First, I kind of wanted to delve into the Goldback Foundation. Like, how did it come to be? your role in the company. How did you join the company? And then we can kind of get into the potential of bringing Goldbacks, or what does it take to bring Goldbacks to individual states. So let's start with the history, and then we can delve into future.
Cool. So yeah, Goldbacks. I've only been around for a couple of years. The history, it was kind of an inspired idea. Jeremy Corden was already working in gold and silver. We had this thing, still have this thing, I suppose, out here in Utah called the United Precious Metals Association, and they were trying to figure out how to use gold and silver as legal money, right? Because as a constitutional idea, at least, gold and silver are stated in the Constitution as being the legal and lawful money. And then you've also got, the fact that states have the power to coin money, but only if it is gold or silver. So Utah passed a legal tender act, made gold and silver legal tender in the state of Utah. And then they started this association where they could kind of promote the use of gold and silver. But it's just so hard. It's so hard to use gold and silver as money because they're not interchangeable, right? I know a lot of libertarians, a lot of people who want a really true free market have always been into gold and silver. But how do you make change, right? And one gold coin from the U.S. Mint is worth almost $2,000. What do you do if you can't make change in any increment lower than $2,000? It just doesn't work very well. And even the silver coins, one silver eagle, the market rate on those is way over spot, but it's also still just fairly expensive, even at spot. It's like $30 for one of those silver coins. You still can't make any change, really. So it just makes it really, really hard in daily commerce for regular transactions to use that stuff. So Jeremy was working for the company. They were vaulting gold and silver, and he was thinking, I wonder if there isn't a better way we could do this. And one night he had a dream that there was some kind of crisis going on or something like that. And these people were coming up to a grocery store, and there was the grocery store was locked up. And there was an employee there saying, no, go away. We don't want your paper money. Go away, to everybody who was coming up. But one lady came up with some kind of gold flashy thing. She said, I've got real gold. And he says, really? All right, I'll trade with you. And he lets her in, and she buys some groceries. And he woke up and he thought, I wonder if we could do something like that. I wonder if we could create gold that was small enough to use in regular transactions. So then he met up with Dr. Adam Trexler at a place called Freedom Fest. And he was making these kind of artistic pieces of gold, mostly for collectors, right? Not so much as a currency, but he said, do you think you could make them even smaller and even bigger than you're already doing right now? Thicker and thinner than you've been able to make them so far? Can we engineer something so that we could create a fungible, in other words, interchangeable kind of gold money? We worked on that for, I think, less than a year and came up with the idea of the Goldback, which is interchangeable gold coins. Here's what they look like. All right, so we've got different denominations and they're different thicknesses. I mean, I wish I could hand them to all the viewers, but if you hold a 25 and a 1 in your hand, you can feel a very major difference because there's 25 times as much gold in this 25 as there is in this 1. And yet they're interchangeable. They don't have different premiums. They don't have different whatevers. And the 1 is so thin and so small, it's only 1/1000th of a troy ounce. So takes 1,000 of these to be the 1 U.S. gold eagle coin from the U.S. Mint, basically.
How do you?
And that means you can do 1,000 times more transactions with it.
How do you? It blows my mind going from like a concept of like, what if we had like paper money that had gold in it, to you have a printed bill. Like the amount of technology that's got to go into, impregnating a sheet of plastic with gold in it, like how do you get to that step?
So yeah, you can think of it sort of like a gold sandwich. Okay. the front of it has some printing. It has the images and the security features and all that sort of thing. But then that's just a blank sheet of plastic. It's a clear sheet of plastic with a little bit of detail work on it. Then we create the layer of gold. And that layer of gold is one solid layer. And then the back, we put one more sheet of clear plastic on the back. That just makes it so that there's a durable container, essentially, that holds that thin gold piece, that thin gold coin. But the gold is one solid piece, right? It's just held in between these two, kind of like laminated, right? Between these layers of plastic. But the fun thing is putting that gold on there is a pretty cool process. It's called vacuum deposition, and it's sort of like 3D printing. We're not stamping it out like you would a coin or foil or something like that. We're actually shooting the gold at it with lasers and building it up.
So
one of the fun things about that,
the design is that in the gold or in the plastic covering of the gold?
it's in the gold, and that's actually one of the coolest things is that all the security features are in the gold at an atomic level, one atom at a time. With each photon, it comes one atom of gold to fuse onto the piece. And so everything, including the serial number, all the way down to those tiniest details, are embedded in the gold itself at an atomic level.
So if you
This
know what
is
you're
what makes it the
looking
most
for,
uncounterfeitable thing ever made.
yeah. So if you know what you're looking for, it's almost impossible to counterfeit it.
Yeah.
You either have to have it or you don't.
Yeah,
but I
and you know that's the other thing I was mentioning before that's kind of fun, is that with the 25 weighing more than the one, even a blind person can tell you if it's counterfeit because you can feel the texture of the gold and you can feel the weight difference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so basically the sandwich, the plastic coating on the top and bottom is basically there just simply for protection. It doesn't actually add or subtract anything to the image, to the value, etc. Like everything is printed at the gold level, and then the plastic is simply there for protection.
More or less, yes. The front, of course, does have a little bit of ink. You know, there are different colors for different denominations. Right? There's green border on this one, a blue border on that one. It just kind of makes it stand out. But yeah, it's there for protection. The real value of a Goldback, of course, is the gold.
Now, I've heard that there is some ability to actually tie in a Goldback to kind of a digital aspect, not necessarily Bitcoin, but blockchain, that has something to do with the serial number. So can you explain exactly how that marriage occurs?
So that marriage isn't really full-fledged yet. It's not consummated, I guess, for using marriage analogies. We are trying to make sure that eventually it can be used in all forms of commerce. Right now, I think the closest thing you've got is basically just a ledger system. Like the United Precious Metals Association, you can open a Goldback denominated account, just like you'd open an account with a credit union or something. You can open that account and have it denominated in Goldbacks and withdraw and deposit and also transfer, kind of like you would Venmo, between one account holder and another, member to member transfer kind of thing. And that makes it pretty handy. But now if people who are really excited about crypto, though, I would love to see more crypto denominated in Goldbacks as well. Yeah. One of the things I like to point out, people say, oh, well, Bitcoin's independent. Bitcoin can, it's independent of any government. I'm like, well, yeah, but how much is a Bitcoin worth? And people will give me the dollar value. And I'm like, so long as the Bitcoin is being measured by the dollar has control, has a certain amount of influence and control over the Bitcoin system. And so it's not fully independent, I think, unless it can be denominated in something that's more objective. And that's really what the Goldbacks offer, is an objective standard of something else.
Well, and not only that, is it's offline, right? Because it's physical and it's offline. Because I think one of my biggest concerns or problems with Bitcoin or any blockchain currency is it's dependent on your access to the blockchain, right? So not only is that problematic
it is.
because if things go offline, and then all of a sudden you lose all of your access to your money, but then B, there is always and I know that there are Bitcoin purists out there that are like, oh no, Bitcoin is infallible. There's no way to fuck with it. Like, but I've learned a long time ago, never underestimate the power of the United States government and the Federal Reserve. So I don't believe it's infallible, and I don't believe that it's something that can't be tampered with. So to have a physical medium of exchange that actually holds its value, if not appreciates in value, I really wish more Bitcoin purists would see that as legitimacy, and it's so frustrating to have that conversation with them because it's like a religion, and they're so sold they're so sold on the purity and the infallibility of the blockchain. So to have a physical medium, but to have it tied into a blockchain, I look at that as like the best of both worlds.
Right. One of the things that, like prepper types, for example, if you know any prepper types, this is not a promise for gold. It is the gold.
Right.
This isn't dependent on the bank. This is in your hands. It doesn't matter if the electricity's out. It doesn't matter if the government is functioning. It doesn't matter if the blockchain is functioning. It doesn't matter. It's literally the only way you're going to lose this is if you get mugged, maybe, right? It's physically the value itself, and you can physically trade that cash for other things. The thing that is, of course, harder though is what do you do about long distance transfers like internet transactions? And I think that that's why there is a really great use, I think, for a lot of blockchain technology. I just simply want to see more blockchains use something more objective like the Goldback as a measure of value.
Is that
which could be fun too, to make a Goldback digital Goldback, a kind of Goldback token on a blockchain would be pretty fun for that reason.
Is that something you think Goldback will pursue directly or leave to third parties? Because like the two biggest
so far we've been more or less leaving it to third parties. We will see if someone comes out with a really good functional system, because once again it's so much harder to decentralize when there is something physical involved, right? It'd be great if there could be multiple repositories. Otherwise, how different is a blockchain Goldback if it only sits in one vault? It kind of needs multi-vaulting as well as multiple nodes. Really, I think of that just as an analogy. Every time somebody buys some Goldbacks and holds them in their wallet, they are a Bitcoin node in the physical sense, in the physical world, right? You can use them to verify each other, and then we build that network, but just in a more social way, I think, a less digital way.
The two biggest problems I've ran into trying to use them is like we're such in a digital world. It's like, okay, but I can't go to Amazon with them. It's like, well, that's where I get most of my stuff. And then the second thing is like I can't buy a pop with them without going back to fiat. So like those two things are my biggest hurdles in actually using them. So
and most of the time people are still, of course, denominating everything in dollars, right? You say without going back to fiat. There are a lot of places where that'll take payment in Goldbacks. There's actually hundreds of them across the state, especially the states where you can pay in Goldbacks or at the cash register, right? But most of those places are still going to list most of their prices in dollars. And then you have to calculate the exchange rate. That's pretty easy to do, but
what I mean there is like when I buy the pop, I have to get change back in fiat because one Goldback is worth more than a 20-ounce pop. And so like just using them, I still have to use the other system for small change. And that's been the biggest hassle.
Right.
People are like, why adopt it then? So.
Well. Is that where the silverback?
Why adopt it's a good question.
Is that where the silverback comes into play?
Where the silverback might come in? Actually, right now, there's some real benefits to it being a single metal system.
Mm-hmm.
The silverback right now, the new silverback that's coming out, by the way, everybody should be going to Bullion Max
Already
and
have.
trying to get a silverback.
Done.
Right? They've got a sweepstakes and stuff like that because it's fun. But it really is mostly an art project at this point. There's no exchange rate between gold and silver for that. And if there were, the danger is that there's always some conflict with these two metals. Don't always have the same ratio value between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Gold and silver have different ratio value between them. And so even if we were to come out with a silverback that was worth 1/10 or 1/100th of a gold back, so you could use it for change, that ratio would fluctuate.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't force that ratio to stay the same. We're not, again, that's the province of government. We're not into force. Everything's voluntary here.
Mm-hmm.
So how would we know what the actual ratio was except to let it fluctuate? And that could be annoying too.
I think the fluctuation is...
it's one of those things we're going to have to look into. We're going to have to see if we can make them thinner or maybe only make a portion of it gold instead of the whole thing gold. And see if we can come out with quarter gold backs or 10th gold backs for even smaller transactions.
Well, I mean, could you
frankly,
do
we're pretty proud of the fact this is worth less than $4, but
Yeah.
Well, I mean, could you could ostensibly come out with a physical coin, like a minted coin, just like a,
yeah,
tin or some really cheap metal and plate it with gold, right?
I think you
right, and then just call it a 10th or something.
I think you run into a purity issue there, though, because most of the people doing this care about, like, this is gold. It's not gold plus something else that can fluctuate with whoever's minting it. So,
well, I mean,
right.
do we ever?
The other thing too is there's a legal aspect.
yeah.
Oh yeah, because what is legal gold or currency? So gold and silver, if that is it. So probably the better option is to, if possible, get a lower denomination of gold into a gold back, right? So instead of a 1 gold back, it could be, I mean, 1/1000th of a gold back, it could be 1/1,000,000th of a gold
like
back.
1/4 of a gold back.
Right.
Like,
I have a bad habit of existing in Capistan in my head to where none of those things would apply anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, just make your own coin. Just put Murray Rothbard on it.
Fuck the government. We'll just do our own thing.
Yeah.
What as far as
and yet you've still got to get other people to think your other thing is worth it, right?
yeah.
Right.
That's the thing. And in
It's the buy-in.
Capistan, other people have to be like, oh yeah, I like it. Otherwise they're gonna be like, well, screw this, and do their own thing.
Do you see and I don't know how much interaction you have with UPMA, but do you see them branching out into multiple states and having almost like a bank? It's almost like an individual banking system that is independent of the U.S. dollar, but still have multiple branches.
Yeah, I think that this concept is definitely growing, and I hope that there'll be plenty of competition in that space too. The company Goldback just wants to manufacture more Goldbacks and get them out there and get them circulating, right? There's lots of different ways that can be done, and I hope that it will. I haven't mentioned yet kind of the growth trajectory that we're on. We're in 4 states. With some recognition legally and with their own state designs in the Goldbacks. We've got Utah was the first, and that was only in 2019, end of 2019, really. So if you ever see a 2019 Goldback, they're rare, especially if it's a 50. 25s in the 50s, we only made like a couple thousand of those in 2019. And then in 2020, we expanded to Nevada. In 2021, we expanded to New Hampshire. And this year, 2022, we expanded to Wyoming. And so in those 4 states, they've got their own series and their own business networks that are starting to use them. And then next, we're going to have South Dakota. And, I can't really say on a recording which states are next, but I can guarantee you there are several other states that we're getting close to doing. So.
What would be the minimum requirement a state would have to do for you to come in and do a Goldback series? Like,
Right. So there's three things we need in order to do a Goldback series in a state or a country for that matter. It can be international.
Yeah.
We first of all, I suppose we need a friendly enough legal environment.
Mhm.
Basically, that means they can't be charging sales tax to exchange one kind of currency for another kind of currency, right?
Mhm.
So we have to have no sales tax on money, on gold, or some recognition that gold is money. Therefore,
Mhm.
so a somewhat friendly legal environment. A lot of states already have that. Without further work. Otherwise, we'd have to lobby maybe for some laws to keep us out of trouble. We want to make sure what we're doing is 100% legal. I understand the libertarian mindset's a little bit like, hey, just do whatever you want. But we want to make
Yeah.
sure we're not pissing off the wrong people, right? We're not picking a fight with anybody. We're just trying to help local money
Mhm.
circulate for local communities.
Well, that's
Okay, so
smart
that's
because,
number
I
one.
mean,
Number two.
That's smart because, I mean, in the fight for liberty, you have to play by the rules that exist, because
Yep.
if you don't, somebody can shut your whole thing down, and that damages the liberty movement.
It does. So we're trying to make sure that we always stay 100% legal. In fact, if anything, I think we pay a little extra in taxes sometimes rather than going into the grayer areas, just because we
Mhm.
don't want to jeopardize the project. So that's number one. Number two is we need a sponsor. We cannot print our money out of thin air,
Yeah.
and we can't print it on mirror, and we can't just print it on paper like this
Mhm.
stuff either. We need we need real gold and lots of it. So the
Mhm.
sponsorship, the size of it depends on the population of the state. Could be as little as $500,000 or $600,000. A really big state like say Texas or California could be in excess of $10 million that we need to get started. We want to be able to manufacture enough on the first round
Mhm.
that we can at least meet initial orders.
Okay.
Do you think you would ever become
Right.
like a
So that's
public company
why it
to
depends
be
on
able to
size.
raise extra funds for that purpose?
Well, that's one of the things that we're trying to be cautious of, right? We don't want to be beholden to the banks because
Right.
if the banks decide they don't like our project, then they could just buy us out. And the same thing with if we go public, we're a little bit reluctant to go public with the stock
Mhm.
because once again, if they could buy up too much stock in the market,
Then they could just shut the
then they
project
could
down.
shut us down. So what we're doing actually, when I talk about having a sponsor, it's a really fun project. It's called the lease program. People
Mhm.
will buy the Goldbacks and then they'll lease them back to us so that we can sell their Goldbacks to other people.
Okay.
And then at the end of the lease term, we will have sold Goldbacks and manufactured more and sold more and manufactured more a couple of times. And then we can give people back more Goldbacks than they put in. And the benefit there, of course, is they make a handsome return on that investment, and we
Yeah.
don't ever jeopardize the project. We only have people who want to be involved and investing in it. So we'd rather basically borrow the money from you. So if any of you guys or any of your listeners want to start a Goldback project in their country or in their state, that's why we're looking for a sponsor or a group of sponsors, right? The total pool doesn't have to be just from one investor. It can be multiple investors, but then we will they can essentially lend out their Goldbacks to start the ball rolling. Right? We just need that little snowball so
Mhm.
that when it starts rolling down the mountain, it has enough momentum to get bigger. Like I said, in a small country or a small state like Wyoming, it's only about $500,000 of investments in order to get the initial inventory rolling for us to get started.
Yeah.
So that's
and then
currently
the third thing.
that lease program is done through UPMA, correct? That's not necessarily done directly
Correct.
through Goldbacks.
Correct. And the benefit to us is what they're doing is they're more or less pre-purchasing the Goldbacks and then deferring delivery for a couple of years in exchange for a return on that
Mhm.
investment. And then we've got the Goldbacks to launch the project.
Yeah.
And the third thing, which we will often foot the money to do if we need to, is we need a business network.
Mhm.
We currently have a deal with the Valorum Mint that we won't actually launch and start selling a new series until there is a certain minimum number of businesses in a state that say they want to do business in the Goldbacks. So, for example, Wyoming, the least populated state in America, by the way, just needed 30 businesses to sign up before launch in order for us to do that launch. And we actually signed up almost 50 before the launch.
Have you guys thought about like community sourcing the businesses, like for outside of the chosen states? Like, how do people find out that I accept it? Like, is there a place we could go to
Right, that
study?
is tricky.
That'd be even better
We
if,
don't
if an
publish a
app
list.
was out there, just so I could jump into a Goldback app and I could see in my state, or even I could say, yeah, I'd want to, you know, share my location, and then it could show me who is willing to do the transaction in
Ooh, yeah.
Goldbacks.
You know, this might actually be simple. I haven't really looked into it yet, but one of the things I'd love to do in that regard is get Google Maps, Google business listings, just to put a little Goldback logo next to all the businesses that accept Goldbacks. And maybe
Oh,
that'd
yeah,
be
that
something
could be
that
like a
individual
window
businesses
sticker or
could just say,
something.
"Hey, I need to get the Goldback tab," you know, and then they just put that little tag on there.
Yeah, that could work amazing.
If Google,
And I bet it wouldn't be hard for Google to do.
if that's the
big
issue, is if
question.
they'd be willing to do it. I know that in Michigan there are some company currencies that they exchange. So, for example, if I'm a photographer, I shoot a promo for your business. You give me an exchange currency that says, for, you know, this amount that I've done for you, now you can exchange for me. That would be a perfect avenue to use Goldbacks as a vehicle for that exchange network. Because I think that those are already in existence all over. But if you can actually make them, you know, gold backed, then it just makes that so much more legitimate.
Right. And there's huge potential for just business to business, not business to consumer, but business to business transactions to be done in Goldbacks. And then each business doesn't have to worry about the other going out of into bankruptcy or limited liability. They will have their actual gold in hand,
Right.
because it's the Goldback. And so, yeah, I'd like to see more of those happen. You know, I am neglecting one thing though. I felt that your question was about what about out of network ones. Now we do have networks in those 4 states that we do publish a map, a list, there's tags. It's on goldback.com. If you in any of those 4 states, you should be able to find some businesses that way. Well, we're not fully publishing the Nevada map yet. Nevada got launched early without a network, and its network, I think, only has about 50 people on the list. And we said we were only going to launch we're only going to start publishing their network when they grow enough that there's, you know, Goldbacks in every region of the state, essentially.
Do you see actually taking that information and putting it into an app, so you can easily just launch an app and see? Because that then you're not dependent on Google or any other third party to dictate who accepts Goldbacks. You can really control through the app who actually accepts Goldbacks.
Right. You know, that is one of the things that is worth mentioning, though. Nobody can dictate who actually uses Goldbacks, and nobody can track it. Nobody can even know necessarily. It's only people who want to be featured, right? That we're just publishing some information on. Anybody can use Goldbacks. You don't need our permission. You don't need anybody's permission.
Yeah,
and that's the brilliance of it, because there is privacy built in when it's physical media. And there's no, that's one of the things that I am not a big, another of the many things that I'm not a fan of Bitcoin or blockchain in general, because it is a ledger that everybody can see. So, you know, it basically kills privacy.
Well, if everybody can see the ledger, I'm sure it would take nothing to whip up a program that can go through the entirety of the ledger and see everything that you've done and compile that into
I mean, it's almost the foundation of CBDC. And so it's ironic that the Bitcoin blockchain evangelists are pushing something that actually could create something that usurps all of it and turns into something that is completely controlled by the government. And every time I hear somebody who's, for, blockchain, all that stuff, and they're like, oh, the government's going to adopt Bitcoin as an actual currency. And it's like, dude, do you even know what the Federal Reserve is?
Yeah.
Do you understand like why they were created? Like, you just don't get it. It's about control and manipulation. If they're going to use blockchain, it's going to be nefarious.
Yeah.
Like, you don't, it's so frustrating to argue.
Is that like
with.
the Federal Reserve woke up yesterday morning? They're like, you know what? I want to help people out today.
Yeah. Let's be decentralized and make everything transparent. Like, no, that's absolutely exactly the opposite of what they want.
One of the first things a lot of people will ask when they hear about Goldbacks is like, oh, so I can take these to the bank. And I'm always like, no, probably not if they're a Federal Reserve bank. They're connected with the Federal Reserve. Does this bank you're talking about use dollars?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be like, well, yeah. And I'll be like, well, then probably not. Because if they started using these, they would have to give up their power to make these.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can make these out of thin air. The last thing they want is the accountability that gold brings. And that's kind of the reason for sound money, as we talk about it, like or like Mises talked about.
Mm-hmm.
The philosophical underpinnings of why to use gold as money really comes down to the fact that it cannot be fraudulent. It demands honesty. It creates accountability because of its physicality.
Well,
it just cannot be faked.
Not only that, it actually has value as a metal. And that's one of the things that like Peter Schiff talks about, and that like it's hard to argue again like with the evangelists on the blockchain side of things, but like it actually serves as a metal. It has intrinsic value to it. It's not just something that isn't easily reproducible, but it actually, I mean, we use it in computer chips, we use it in NASA, we use it in jewelry, we use it in, A, B, C, D. So there's demand for it outside of currency. So
Absolutely.
That's why it holds its value, not simply because of its scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But it does mean it's pretty beautiful, right? I mean,
Yeah.
when you look at the money, you hold a fiat currency in your hand and you hold a Goldback in your hand and you feel like this one's worth more.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty quickly.
I mean, okay, so my question. Are you guys going to come out with a Goldback that's not going to get destroyed if I put it in my wallet?
Oh, I don't think that these get destroyed very easily right now. It is true that if you fold it, you crease it real good, you're going to have a permanent crease. That's sort of true of paper money too. You fold it really hard and you're going to have a crease. But actually being destroyed, our hope is that these will survive circulation really well. Now, we have had some manufacturing issues where the lamination starts peeling a little bit. Whenever you see that, turn it in, and we promise we will exchange it for a fresh one anytime. No questions asked.
What causes that peeling? Is it like excess heat?
Well, it's because of the manufacturing process. Sometimes either it gets started or it won't get started later. They're actually practically indestructible. You can't rip a Goldback in half with your bare hands. I mean, I dare you. We actually had a contest at one point that we told people they would win a prize. They'd win a bunch of Goldbacks if they could rip one in half. We never had anybody collect. No one was able to do it. Even big guys. They could rip a phone book in half. They couldn't rip a Goldback in half.
Well, I guess my big concern with like putting it in a wallet, and I know this is kind of a silly question, but like my concern is that you put it in a wallet and it's is constantly creased and uncreased and creased and uncreased, going from wallet to wallet to wallet. Eventually, I mean, you take something and you bend it enough times, it's going to break. Especially something plastic. So I guess well, that's really the magic of having this polymer. It's actually a form of polyester, but that's all I can tell you because it's actually proprietary. The packaging here, right? We believe it should hold up really well. And then the other goal is as long as the company exists, right? We insist on complete interchangeability. You can always trade one that looks ugly for a fresh one. Can you
so long as all the gold
from
is still
like
inside.
a damaged bill? Can you extract the
Oh, all
gold
the
from
time.
a damaged bill?
All the time. We do it constantly. All you need is a proper crucible. I suppose anyone could do it if they
okay,
had a
yeah.
kiln. I don't suggest lighting them on fire, right? But but yeah, we do it constantly. It's part of the manufacturing process. Any of the old ones, we just throw them back in and we spruce them up and make them fresh.
Okay.
So,
yeah, 'cause I guess in the melting process, it's gonna melt away all that plastic.
yeah.
Sorry, these are not very like liberty or currency minded questions. I'm just.
But no, but this is a great
Very physical question.
yeah, but it's great discussion because there are a lot of people that are looking at this from a complete novice point of view, and
I am one of those
these
dudes.
are the questions that they're going to have, right? So like, how many times can you bend it? And the great thing with most wallets is it's bending, but it's not pressing it together to form a crease. And like I know Dakota and I both have wallets that are flat, so you just put things in and it never creases it. But there's also the benefit of like when you know that you're holding gold in your hand, you're going to treat it differently, right? Because it like a $1 bill, you know it's just fucking paper.
Yeah.
And who the like I can throw it in my shoe or anything and like I just uncrease it and buy my pop. But like holy crap, if I like this is gold, I am gonna treat it with a much more
that'll make you carry a gun around.
Oh, exactly. Like I'm wrapping this ship in a gun. Like I'm putting my wallet right next to my concealed.
And then you're exercising not just your right to sound money, but your right to defend yourself and your right to carry, keep and bear arms, right? And then you got all your rights protected.
Do you think, especially when it comes to New Hampshire, is there potential for a state to say this is our state-sanctioned currency? To say
there is, but that would take a whole nother level of legality, right? You'd have to have the legislature pass a law stating that. And then we would probably put right on the note, we'd probably put the Secretary of the Treasury of the state's signature on it, the seal of the state, and so forth would go right on the note. We'd have to do something like that. So it would have to be a direct deal. Here's something, if you know anybody in state government, there would be what's called the seigniorage if they were to do such a thing, where the state would actually raise money that way. The state could actually get a small cut of profit off of every goldback manufactured, if they were to create such an arrangement. It would be the official state currency. So that really could be quite a cool thing. I mean, it'd be good for the state anyway, if they were to do that, even just as a novelty. So to get some revenue. But it looks like we are about out of time. Is there one last question?
Yeah, it'd be almost like a secondary currency.
It's complementary.
Yeah.
Yeah. We call it a complementary currency, that one.
So Dakota and I are currently working on some drafts of legislation to be able to get this moving through the Michigan side of things. Do you guys have, I know that you have legal background, but how would we go about, I personally know some financial backers that could be sponsors of it. And it would just really be about
awesome.
Pushing it forward through at the state legislature. Do you have, is it something that we can meet with you individually or a team from Goldbacks to say, all right, here's what we have so far?
Contact us. Like go to goldback.com to send an email if it's just somebody who's a listener. You guys email me. Yeah, we can get something going. It looks like I'm going to have to go though. So I guess we'll have to end it there.
Okay. We really appreciate your time, and we will definitely be in touch as we push forward for Michigan to get on Goldbacks.
I would love to have a Michigan Goldback. That sounds really cool.
Awesome. Wolverine State, here we go.
Or the Spartans.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Ben.
Thanks, Ben. Well, there it was, folks. This is the prolapsed anus end of this episode.
Back to where we started. We are nothing but consistent here at We Love the State.
I wonder how many people listened to the intro and then we got to the interview and they're like, finally, I don't have to hear another thing about a prolapsed anus.
And then we got him
We
back.
gotcha.
This is what you get for staying to the end of the episode. Never do that again.
Well, everybody, we cut some of the end off of the interview because Ben had to leave. Not my Ben, the other one, had to leave, and so it kind of ended weird. So we thought we'd give you a little bit of an outro for this. I hope you really enjoyed that. I enjoyed trying my hardest to understand it.
So we're going to have similar conversations again, just for Andy's sake, so that way he can fully absorb the gold.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get high every time we do, so that way I just perpetually in the dark.
Every time I say gold, you're like, here we go again. Fucking gold bug rant.
Well, anyway, sorry.
Anyway, everybody.
Thanks for sticking around. I hope you really enjoyed that. Go check out the locals. Go check out all of our socials. Get on the Facebook group. All that stuff I said in the intro, with much less talk of prolapsed anuses. So, do you have any closing thoughts for us, Ben?
Well, we've already got some great ideas for episodes for next week. So we are continuing the trend of attempting 2 episodes a week. So look forward to that. And if you do have ideas that you'd like to have us discuss, or you're like, oh, have you heard about this? Or, any of that kind of stuff. I'm like an avid podcast listener and news reader. So I'm always looking for, other discussion points to be had. So, and we will be talking about midterms. So that's something we will be talking about this weekend. And we'll release that episode early next week. So stay tuned for that. I know for me personally, I've got a lot of thoughts on it that I haven't heard covered in a lot of the other libertarian podcasts that I listen to. So, I'd love to have everybody stay tuned, listen to that episode, and then again, give us your thoughts and feedback on your opinion of how the midterms turned out and what it means for libertarians in general, or liberty in general.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we will see you guys next time. And We Love the State.
Same state channel, same state network.